Are you wondering why your brush lettering words don't look quite alright, although you've been practicing alphabets over and over? Then you have come to the right place. In this video, I will show you how to properly connect your letters and some tips and tricks that you can use when facing difficult connections. You will also find some original ideas that you can apply to certain letter combos. For this class, it is a good idea to keep close the alphabets we created in the previous video. I will be using Design Journey double-ended watercolor brush pens because the firmness of their tip is perfect for beginners. You will find a list of all the used products in the description box below. In one of the previous videos in this Design Journey art class, I showed you how to draw each of the letters of the alphabet, and now we are going to learn how to connect them to create words. Lettering connection sounds easy, right? You just put two letters together close enough so some of their strokes are touching, and voila, you have your letters connected. Well, in practice it is not that easy. Letters should be consistently and properly spaced throughout the whole word. And it is important to think about the letter you're drawing, but also the letter that you are connecting it to. Let's take a look at some examples. We're going to draw a letter A, then a letter I, and then an N. The distance between these two letters should be more or less the same as the white space that we have inside this letter A. So this space or this white space should be more or less the same as this one. If we want to draw a letter N, this space should be more or less the same as this one. But don't worry, you don't have to measure it with a ruler. You will notice if the space is too much, like here, this is obviously wrong, or if letters are too close, like here. Remember the exit stroke? If you draw it long enough, up to this point more or less in the middle, you won't have any problem to place the second letter properly. Let's see another example. Here we have letter N, and if I want to connect it to an A, I cannot start here because letter A starts here. Remember that stroke? The oval always starts here, so I have to measure more or less how wide this letter A is going to be, move towards the right, and then start drawing this oval and finish the letter. At the beginning, probably you will have this problem where you start too close and then you run out of space. But don't worry, you will get better over time. Remember, this is too small and we have to leave some space so letters can breathe. Let's see some other examples. If we're drawing a letter M and we want to connect it to an E, we stop here and we really stop. We lift the pencil or the brush pen from the paper and then we start with the second letter. Don't draw them all together. Some other examples with letter C. We have to move towards the right a little bit so we have enough space to draw the second letter. With letter P and B, we had this other oval in the opposite direction as letter A, where we create a thin stroke at the end to be able to connect them to the next letter. And the same with letter B, with this exit stroke. If we have letters with these centers, for instance, this letter, we can use this thin upstroke to connect it to the next letter. And the same with letter Y. And some other letters like this one. Always try to leave the right amount of space between its letters. Some connections are a little bit more complicated. For instance, if we want to connect letter A to letter S, we may do this draw letter A, and then stop here. But then for letter S, we need an entrance stroke, and then we have to actually draw the letter. So if we stop here, we will have to connect really well this stroke with this one, and the result doesn't always look nice. So we have to keep in mind that we want to draw an X next. We draw letter A, and then we go up till here, so we can draw the second part of the letter S easily. It's the same with letter R. We have our letter A first, and then we do this in one single stroke without stopping until we are done with letter R. Of course, there are some places where you can stop. If it's too complicated, you can draw an A, then go up till here, and there you can stop and nobody will notice. There are some connections that are more difficult with letter R, like OR, which is very common in English, and we do that in one single stroke, like this. I will show you different variations for these ones in a bit. Let's continue now with some connections with letters that have ascenders and letter R. What happens with these ones? For instance, if I want to draw a letter T and then an R, and then I want to place the bar, this stroke is going to cross the other letter and it doesn't look nice. So draw your letter and always keep that in mind so they don't touch. What if it's a D, for instance? You draw your D, and then when you want to draw the letter R, you run out of space and you have to cross this part. So sometimes it's easier to change the version of the letter you're drawing and maybe choose a simple one, like this D, that doesn't have a loop and allows you to draw the letter R in the proper place. This can also happen with letter F. And when we want to connect it to the R, we have the same problem, so we can change our F for a different version. And of course, we can also change the R, like here. Some more problems that we can encounter with letter R: if we have a P with this oval, we will have to go a bit higher to create the loop of the R. And as I showed you with letter O, we can also change the way we draw our letters. We draw a simple version of the letter O and then this R, for instance, or we change completely the R for this one. Both are valid, you just have to find out which one suits your style better. And let's continue with some other examples. Letters V, W, and Z are sometimes complicated as well because we finish them up here, and then you may wonder, how do I connect it to the next letter? Well, you have to do something like this, go a bit lower with this little oval, and now you can connect the next letter easily. The same with W and letter, for instance, H. Or you can choose a completely different approach with this version of the letter, and then instead of this kind of connection, you can just draw the letter like this, and this is also a good way to connect your letters. With Z, you can leave this stroke here and then connect the letters with this middle stroke. Or you can use this one to connect. Do we always have to connect the letters? Absolutely no. We saw it in this example, but we can see some other letters connected, or unconnected, I should say. Letters with descenders, like this one, can be connected to the next letter, but we can also play with this descender and do something like this. Place the next letter close enough, and you're good to go. Finally, we are going to take a look at some ligatures. That is, when two letters are connected with one common stroke. For instance, if we have the H, we saw that in one of the videos, but we can use the bar of the T to create part of the H. Or if we have two T's, we can draw them first and then use the same bar to cross both of them. We can also skip a letter sometimes with these ligatures. For instance, if we are writing an S, then a C, we can connect the S and the H with one stroke. And each time you find the same letter twice, like two R's, try to make one of them slightly bigger than the other one, or two L's, to make it more interesting. To sum it up, let's take a look at 3 common mistakes that you can make when connecting letters. The first one is not being consistent with your spacing. Here you can see that each of the individual letters is well drawn, but the spacing is totally wrong because these two letters are too close together and these ones are too far away from each other. So always keep in mind that the distance should be consistent. The second mistake is to create thick exit strokes. Sometimes when we finish drawing a letter, we lose our concentration and we do this. And then we draw this next letter and do this. And we continue doing this, and it creates thick exit strokes. And all of these connection strokes should be thin. So focus on drawing each letter from the beginning until the end with a thin exit stroke. And this will make your words look more polished. And the third mistake is not aligning the connection points between letters. And I'm going to draw an example where it's wrong. These letters are connected here, and then up here, and then in the middle, and then down here again. So this doesn't look so good, and we are going to try to keep all of these connection points in the same line. So here, here, there, and there. The best way to get better at connecting letters and properly spacing them is to practice with examples. And at the Hand Lettering Creator, you will find many template sheets available to download, and you will also be able to type in your own words with the fonts available. So follow the link in the description box below and give it a try. Just a final thought before we end this video. When you have learned the basics of constructing each of the letters, jump into connections. It is more important that the overall look of a word is good than the letters themselves are perfect. Nothing handmade is 100% perfect anyway, and that is the beauty about it. I love sharing this video with you, and I hope you find it useful. Don't forget to like it and share it with your lettering friends. Now that we know how to combine letters to create words, it's time to learn how to combine words to create compositions.